Hello there, and welcome to the next episode of How to Run the Dragon of Icespire Peak. My name is Jake, and I am joined by the real Josh T, who played Sir Marcus of House Winterburn on our playthrough. I was the DM. We're talking about the Woodland Manse. This is a pretty cool adventure. I actually don't think it needs too much tweaking. I think it's pretty good out of the box as is, but we have a couple of funny little stories that we're going to share, and then some fun tweaks we did to the tree and the counterattack that's listed at the end. So we're going to run our little do-do-do, and then we'll start talking about it. Yay.
Hello, welcome back. Very excited to be talking about this because I think this is one of the better quests that we've done. As always, spoiler alert, we're about to go through the quest in detail. So, we expect that you know that since you clicked on this video, but whether you're a DM or a player, we're happy to have you here. But players, come on, watch this after you play the session, not before. So we normally start this off with reading the quest card. So, Jacob, can you read the quest card for us?
The orcs have fallen under the sway of evil spellcasters in Neverwinter Wood and have been sighted in growing numbers near Falcon's hunting lodge. The spellcasters dwell in a ruined manse. Falcon needs someone to make a preemptive strike against it, destroy the evil in the manse, then expect him to reward you, which I kind of love. That's extra. I think did I use that right, Josh? Extra.
I think you used that correctly. Yeah, it's extra. It's funny because I feel like some players might skip this because they're like, expect him to reward you.
It's pretty rough, yeah.
Just you're either going to reward me or you're not going to reward me. I want to know that beforehand,
Yes. Yeah. Well, in our playthrough, I kind of liked the way we ended up structuring it and the fact that you guys went up there for the loggers camp. And then just because you had stopped by Falcon's hunting lodge first, you came back to him. And I was like, you know what? It just makes sense with the nature of this quest that he would directly give you the quest. And then the reward he just tells you about beforehand. So I think it's a lot smoother of a way to introduce this quest, but a lot of players are also, they might not go the same path that you guys chose.
I think it also worked out really well just because, if I remember correctly, at least, we didn't go back to town. We did the loggers camp, went back to the Woodland Manse just to rest for the night, and then he was like, hey, there's this thing going on. I need you to take care of it. And we were like, sure, but you have to watch this really annoying stupid jerk face.
This half brother who seems to have the same voice as his other half brother.
It's weird. Everyone in this campaign seems to have the same voice.
Yes. Yeah. The basic location overview here is there's this wizard that was in this mansion, which is what a manse is. I had to kind of go like, a manse? I had never heard it referred to as that before, but that's what it is. It's a rundown mansion. But a wizard lived here, eventually just mysteriously disappeared. And that's kind of the only hints to that they give, which to me is a little, I just wish they would have given a little bit more there and maybe tied it in.
So was he the Woodland Manse?
He was the Woodland Manse. I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, they say it's a girl in the course of her explorations. So yeah, no mans, only manse. But at this point, you would think that the group has encountered some of the anchorites of Talos, probably in boar form ahead of time, and Granok, one of their leaders, found the manse and then planted some evil seeds. I guess they was going to do their own version of Jack and the Giant Beanstalk in the well that's there, and those seeds grew into the Gulthias Tree, which spawns blights that are under Granok's control. And that's basically the gist of the lore behind it. I do think you can kind of flesh that out, make that your own as needed, because there's some rumors about the Neverwinter Woods that kind of make it get this feeling that there's some kind of weird dark magic. Maybe it's cursed, maybe it's not. During my playthrough, Josh, I remember Michael asking me a question and I was like, oh, is it cursed? I was like, did I read that? That's kind of like where that whole thing comes from.
It's just the vibe that the woods give off. I'll say this: it wouldn't be unreasonable for a player to get that impression.
Oh yeah,
which I think is cool. It just adds to the tone of what's happening.
So the quest goals, according to the card that we just read, is just eradicate the evil. Basically, just clear it out. Travel to the location is normally something that is present, and it's just not. I mean, you can throw in a random encounter if you want. You don't have to. I just read the pace and tone of your table to see kind of if that feels like that's going to just be annoying, or if that's going to be something that they're into, or maybe they're approaching and there's like, well, we don't have enough time for a whole adventure, but we do have another 40 minutes, so I'll throw an encounter at them. Like sometimes that can work one way or the other.
If you've been watching our videos or other videos, which you should, you already know this. Random encounters are just meant to add to the fun, add to the tone if you need something to get a point across or anything like that. You shouldn't be bogging down your players with random encounters. Like if it's like every time they go into the woods there's a random encounter, they're gonna start to get tired of it. So it's just a little extra. Yeah. It's on top, a little cherry on top, whipped cream.
Whipped cream. now I want to go get ice cream. As most of these things have, there's features of the area. A lot of it really is pretty straightforward. This adventure, I made a bunch of mistakes because I just wasn't quite as familiar. I remember like describing something and then later on I'd be like, oh crap, it says it's 5 feet high. and so it ended up being this funny thing where Landor, I think it took him like 4 turns to get into the stupid invention. Yeah. It was something silly like that because one of my bugaboos is when people try to use acrobatics to climb. And that's what he kept trying to do. I was like, yeah, the DC is like 37. Wish it wasn't, but he just kept rolling bad. I think I even forgot about the poison ivy that's there. I goofed, but I if you even just heard how Josh endorsed the quest beforehand, like you can make mistakes, they can still be great.
Your players don't know what the quest actually says. So, I mean, if they do, that's a big problem, right? They shouldn't know what it says. So if you miss something, it's not the end of the world. Don't stress out over it. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just take a look at it. If it looks like something you should have used, then save it for another time.
And then you got a little box text for arriving there, which I think is nice. It sets the tone pretty well. I don't think there's really too much else that's important. The dining room, section W5, is kind of interesting. They got these like creepy effigy twig blight like things that they're supposed to have one that represents each party member. So if you could just think about that ahead of time, how to describe those, it can be nice and creepy, which just leans into the whole dark, seedy, see what I did there, nature of this adventure. You're just setting tension and the tone there.
It's interesting because if you've seen our playthrough, we went in through W10, which is the Wizard's Laboratory.
Yep.
I don't know if that made things way more difficult for us or if it was just, I guess, I don't know.
It is interesting. It probably did because one of Granok's spells is Thunderwave, which he did cast in the middle of the encounter. So, I mean, if you're familiar with that spell, it's loud. So it alerted everybody else that, hey, there's something going on here. But even that whole scene, there's like these lightning and things dancing around. So it's supposed to be pretty loud. So if that's going on or the lightning stops because the players win, like either way, there's a change in the sound, which is something that, hey, I thought he was going to be doing that thing for a couple of hours and he's only had it for a half an hour. What happened? Like you can have reasons for the orcs and stuff to go wandering. The dining room, I think you could have an additional anchorite here if the players let the anchorite that they initially meet in the woods, if they let them escape, I think you could put that anchorite there if you wanted. But yeah, you guys went kind of right in the main, it's not even the main entrance, but you're like, I'm just going for it. Come on, Granok, I don't even know it's you, but I'm fighting you.
I don't remember. I feel like we probably thought we were doing it like we were like, we'll go through this room. That way we'll sneak up on them.
So sneaky.
The big thing here, which I don't think we mentioned yet, is that there's some hogs that are running around in this courtyard. So 3 of those hogs are not actually hogs. 3 of them are anchorites of Talos. And the thing about anchorites of Talos is they have the ability to cast lightning bolt. I feel like that was our biggest challenge through this, and it made it interesting, right? Because we were like, the first time we're standing in a line and it was like, I didn't know they could do that, and then the second time it was like, I didn't think we were in a line, but it was like,
as a DM you can almost always justify getting at least 2 one way or another. It's like, you're over here. There we go. I'm going to get you. But it's when they really line up with like 3. That's when like, you about to get it. But I don't think I ever got you with 3. I think I did maybe get you with 2.
Yeah, I don't think you ever got all 3 of us, but you definitely got Izzy and I at least twice, maybe even 3 times. And Michael was just at that south window trying to get inside.
He was on the struggle bus hard.
If I remember correctly, I think that the boars started attacking him too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It got to the point where he was just like, I think I'm actually in trouble now because I either use my action to disengage or I climb. Like, it was like this weird thing. Like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, it was fun.
I think it was just a fun little moment, and it's a nice reminder for DMs too. Like, this isn't just a silly story we're telling. It's a reminder of sometimes the things that you think will be trivial are actually the things that cause the biggest problems. Because one, that Michael took more damage from those hogs than he did from any of the like actual combatants, you know?
Yeah.
And that fight was infinitely more difficult because it was 2 of us against them instead of 3 of us against them.
Yeah, it's a good point. No matter what kind of plan you put together, it'll go different. Whether it's the players doing something you don't expect or just the dice going, ha ha! The players plan and the dice laugh. That's a good saying.
Yes, sir. But speaking of infinitely more difficult, the tree rules as written, we'll say, or story as written, was like fine. But you did some extra cool stuff to it that made it more of a challenge and then also just way more interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I just looked at what was there in the quest and I thought it was kind of boring. So I wanted to, as our good friend Hidden Nerdy Side, I wanted to make it spicier. You should go check out Hidden Nerdy Side, his YouTube channel. He's a really cool guy. I made the Gulthias Tree a custom monster because, like I said, I wanted to make it more interesting. And I honestly don't remember where I got the one that I used, which is why, unfortunately, I am not going to share exact details because I couldn't credit the person who did it. I basically just Googled Gulthias Tree. And then I found some fun stuff. The one I used was a CR5 creature. It was vulnerable to fire damage, resisted bludgeoning, piercing, and necrotic. So slashing was actually good there. And then it had a regeneration mechanic somewhat similar to trolls, but instead of like acid damage, I substituted radiant. So fire and radiant would have suppressed its regeneration. I actually don't remember if I know fire came in there. I don't know if radiant did. Although Izzy, Daisy may have because she was the zealot barbarian.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's funny because I was gonna say like I used my flame tongue, but I didn't have it at that point, so I'm not sure what I did. I just know that fire was involved.
Yep, I think there was like a Molotov cocktail style thing, and Landor was shooting fire bolts, doing his thing. Yeah, the creature also had some kind of like multi-attack and like the ability to like grapple and set up some really nasty combos, which I believe Daisy kept getting grappled, but she was like tanking like a champ. There was some really cool moments in here, and probably the most epic use of heroism, the spell heroism, that you will ever see. That was just like the coolest thing. You got to watch this episode. It was really cool. The tree, it just felt more dramatic. It ended up having less hit points, but it didn't matter. The tension was nice and good there.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, and it was an interesting encounter, especially because a lot of our resources were drained from all of the other fights, and then we walk into the room and there's like this giant tree thing, and we're like, well, great.
Well, I think another thing that kind of messed up was another mistake I made was you guys walked into a room and I forgot to describe that it was like a balcony, like staircase going up to the second story, and you decided, based on the information I gave you, you decided to try and take a short rest there. And I was like, oh crap, I was like, I made a mistake. This shouldn't work. But I told them information that they made a decision based on. Like, I was scrambling hard on this one, I remember.
I think we still probably would have tried to take a short rest either way, I think. So it was interesting because like player tactics came into play where, you know, we're inside that room. We're like, all right, well, let's try to like bar the door or whatever. And now suddenly like we hear that there's orcs on the other side. And because the fight that we just had with Granok actually mattered when he was making those noises or when they stopped, making whatever noises they were making, people noticed or other orcs noticed, and that's how it should be. So I don't look back at that as like, oh, you didn't tell us that room correctly. I look back at it like, yeah, like, you know, we tried to hide in the room. It didn't exactly work out, but it did kind of work out. So
Worked out in fun, which is the whole point. But yeah, it's just sometimes things happen. You read something the wrong way. You think something is a certain way, and then you look like, oh crap, there's a staircase. I didn't even. Oh boy. Yep. Well, here it is, and you roll with it. I think I remembered not having the orcs come down that staircase because of my mistake. I think I did have them take a different path to get to you because I felt like that would have been very unfair. They sent it people to investigate, like, wait, what's going on? It seems like something's weird down there. Someone go check it out. And then the only other thing I really kind of want to talk about is section W14, which is the upstairs hallway. The Sturges here, I found them very annoying. I felt like we were having a lot of fun. Then this encounter happened, and it was just like, I felt like I just took a bucket of cold water and I was just like, ha, no more fun. This is obnoxious. Like, that's the way it came off to me.
it was more like, you know, these Sturges took a straw and sucked all of the fun out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I should have said sucked. Dang it, Josh. I'm happy someone's on their game today. It's not me.
No, I mean it's fine. Like it was just Sturges are obnoxious. That's it. Sturges are obnoxious creatures, and especially right after like a bunch of encounters, like actual like good encounters, for them to just be like, yeah, throw a bunch of Sturges at them. First of all, why? Second,
Yes.
what gives you the right? You know, it's just
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that was thrown in there just to be thrown in there. Like there's no real reason for it. That it was obnoxious, and that's I still feel that way about it. It didn't ruin the encounter. It was or the adventure. It was just like all right, that was annoying, but
yeah. One pathway in is you could climb the balcony to get in, and so if you were on the second floor to start and you encountered them first, you could have played off of the like, oh, we're trying to be stealthy and quiet, and like I know sometimes you'll talk about this is trap, like it's attacks, like TAX on player resources. I feel like that would have made a lot more sense, but I kind of feel like if read the room here, just like with the random encounter on the approach, like I would have been perfectly happy to just be like, you guys don't find anything in the upstairs hallway, and I think it would have maybe even been better.
it was still fine. Just
Yeah.
word of advice: if you want to just bother yourself and your players, you know, throw some Sturges at them. If you don't want to, if you don't want to deal with the annoyance, then just don't do it. You know?
And then other things like treasure, they have like staff of bird calls. There's like a lot of little like silly things in here which are cool, but nothing of really intense power. You can throw something in there if you want. You don't have to roll with the treasure they give, but for the most part, I wanted to run it as is.
It's just a movable rod, which I think we called like a stopping stick or something
Stopping
like
stick,
that.
yes.
Or a stick of stopping. I don't know, but silly common items, which is just like, what kind of wizard was living here? Those are the items that they had.
Here's a staff of bird calls. You filthy animal, get lost. It's like, what? I guess they took all the good stuff when they disappeared. But really, other than that, I mean, you know, it's the orcs are kind of just hanging out in the guest room up in W18. You can put the orcs really wherever you want. I see no reason not to follow that here, you know, but again, you can make it your own. Perhaps one of the most interesting things about this encounter is the very last section, and that is the section entitled Counterattack. And Josh, since I started this series and then you joined me last episode, this is something that you really wanted to talk about, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this was one of the most exciting encounters in the entire campaign. I don't want to say it was more exciting than the dragon fight, but like just the idea of this, like we're going to use the system that D&D says to use, but that nobody at D&D actually uses, which is the challenge rating, the CER system.
Oh yeah, they throw that right out the window here.
Yeah. 20 orcs led by Gorthok the Thunderboar. If you were to award the amount of experience points that the CR system says that you should award for 20 orcs and Gorthok the Thunderboar at the level that we were at, we would have jumped like 3 levels each.
It would have been a lot. But the thing I really like about this particular thing is it happens the next day, whether you're there or not. So you're either returning to just a wrecked hunting lodge, being like, oh crap, where's Falcon? Or you're experiencing it. And you guys, I always remember thinking like, please go to the hunting lodge, please go to the hunting lodge, please go to the hunting lodge. And you did. And I was like, all right, we're going to end the episode because, next time. So yes, the thing is, like you said, Josh, they just threw the CR system out the window here. Gorthok is an absolute tank beast. I mean, nasty. And then you've got literally 20 orcs. Orcs might be easy to kill, especially because your level's pretty much around level 4, maybe level 5 here. And but they still hit hard. There's still actions on the table. That's always a big thing Josh talks about when building encounters, which we have a whole series on that. You should totally watch that. But what I did is specifically stagger the arrival of these orcs. I split them up into 3 groups. I had the main group where Gorthok just charges through and breaks the barricade down, and there's a whole bunch of orcs that follow him in there. And then I had groups up in the northeast and then off to the west, I believe. And I think they were just like, wait for my signal. What was the signal? And it was just when there's like a lot of noise happening. That was kind of the signal. So that they just, I just had different hiding spots that made them like they see the signal, but they're going to get there, a little different timing because that's a ton. Even, Marcus has a good AC. Daisy, it was a barbarian, has tons of HP. And then I also had Falcon get down there and tank like a champ because the dude's got some serious amounts of hit points. Like, I know he does more damage with his bow, but he was the very definition of a melee meat shield.
I think you RP'd him well, and I think that should always come into play when you're making an encounter like this, because there's no world where Falcon would be up in a tower trying to hit people with a bow when there's 3 people who he asked to do something and got them in danger. Those 3 people are on the ground getting, lightning attacked and hit with orcs and everything. So it just made sense. 1, we probably wouldn't have succeeded without him there. And 2, it just made sense from an RP perspective.
I remember he was down to like maybe 15 hit points towards the end. He's got over 100. So he took some serious punishment. And the other thing about Falcon too, like his quarters are separate from where Corwin and Pell are. And I mean, his alignment is neutral good. I was like, he's this like brave warrior. I just didn't think he wouldn't try and find them before, whether he read the situation, like, do we got to get out of here? Whatever it is, like that was big. Yeah. Get Falcon in the mix.
One ability that orcs have is aggressive. And aggressive, basically, if you've been DMing this campaign, you know this already, but aggressive, as a bonus action, the orc can move up to its speed toward a hostile creature that it can see. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake. It can move its full speed and then use aggressive and move its speed.
It's basically like a rogue with cunning action. It just has to see a target that it wants to attack, and then all of a sudden it's like, how did they move 12? Okay, they moved 12 squares. Here they are.
That adds so much more because you're not only dealing with, all right, I have to hit this orc or whatever. You're now dealing with it in half the amount of time that it should have taken. I'm now engaged in combat, and most tables play with opportunity attacks where, like, if I leave his reach, I've provoked an opportunity attack. And that completely changes tactics and that kind of thing. The stress of going up to the hunting lodge and this starting to happen. I distinctly remember, not that our group was chaotic. Our barbarian was like I don't plan, like
Just doesn't. I don't like plans. Yeah.
I just remember, like, I saw what was happening. I looked at it, and I remember like trying to just rattle off like 6 different things that we could do so we wouldn't run straight in, because I realized how dangerous it was going to be. And we still pretty much ran straight in, but it worked out.
Yeah. That was because of that, particularly, I was like, all right, I'm going to wait a round or 2, but Falcon is definitely joining the mix here.
And the other thing, this is a callback to really how we started this video off, because we did this right on the way back from the logging camp. We had a certain NPC with us, which adds a complication
Yes,
to
that's
an
true.
already complicated situation, because now we have Wester, right?
Tybor Wester, yeah.
Tybor Wester. We have Tybor Wester trying to like sleep in some little cabin room, and
I had the
there
orcs
was
lighting the place on fire,
they
doing
lit the
all
place on
sorts of
fire and
things.
went inside of it. You're not only adding like this is a very difficult encounter. It's like this is a very difficult encounter and you can't handle it tactically the way that you want to handle it because there are other things happening. And you've heard me talk about this before. That's a great encounter. You know, it's not
It was a lot of
just,
fun.
hey, let's do this fight. It's like, yeah, let's do this fight. But this person who you're responsible for is on the other side. You're gonna have to lose a turn to go to him, then fight those it was
But you're also risking your
excellent.
safety. Like, are you splitting the party? Like, there was a anytime there's more goals than just I'm gonna line up my team, you're gonna line up your team, and we're gonna fight. Anytime it's more than that, it just gets a lot of fun. Josh, overall, what would be your evaluation of this adventure? I kind of feel like it fits pretty well into the basic story of Neverwinter Wood because you get to really develop the orc side of things. I know you usually at this point you're kind of hinting at things up until here, but you get to really see the desperation of the orcs. I think it's a good story to tell.
Yeah, I think like how I would rate it. I mean, shoot, on a scale of like a peach emoji to a blueberry, it would probably be a mango for sure.
Okay, because you don't want it to be the butt of this joke.
Yeah.
Or like some rando that joined your group. Kind of somewhere in the middle. I got it. I think that's totally fair.
If I had to rate this quest, I would rate it very highly. One of, if not the best quest in the game. Story-wise, it worked really well. It was challenging in all aspects. You know, the actual manse itself was challenging and evocative. And then back at the hunting lodge, it was also challenging and interesting. And you had a really cool creature, which was Gorthok. Like that, it was a very great, very interesting quest. 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
There you go. One of the things I really, really enjoyed about this is that your actions as the players really had an effect on what happened with the rest of this game. I mean, you just stirred up a huge hornet's nest. You already, the orcs kind of know who you are at this point, but now you're on their turf and they're like, this isn't okay. We're going to hit you where it hurts. We know that Falcon guy is probably harboring you. Maybe they saw him snooping around while he's scouting. Who knows? The fact that they're like, no, we're taking the fight to them. Like anytime player agency has an effect on the game, I like it.
Yeah, this was a good one. I think the changes you made to it made it that much better too.
So we absolutely would encourage you to watch the adventure that we ran to get a wrap your head around how that's going to go. But I also want to hear how your playthroughs are going, how you ran this adventure. We want to hear all about that in the comment section because something you share could spark the creativity of somebody else that's trying to learn this adventure, and who knows what kind of all sorts of chaos and shenanigans can ensue. So thank you so much for watching. Obviously, like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do that. And watch Dungeon Master Tips. I think you're going to find a lot of really good philosophical approaches to the game so that you'll learn to think, to do things like the tips we're giving here in these videos and in the series. So thank you so much for watching, and give someone a high five like this. Josh.